Hey, good morning everyone. Before we get started here, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe if you haven't already. Want to make a video this morning showing you a couple little things that I'm doing a little bit differently with my DRT climbing setup this year. And I want to show you a foot locking technique that's a little bit different than we've shown in the past before. It's something that if you're somebody that has gotten into DRT climbing and you have a little bit of trouble struggling using a hip thrusting technique, I can show you something where you can use foot strength without actually having to add any other gear to your setup. You don't have to add an actual foot loop to it. We're going to use just the rope to do it, but it's a little bit different technique, and I find it a little bit simpler and more intuitive to use. Also, I'm going to show you a slightly different variation of how I'm setting up my DRT climbing rope this year. In the past, we've always shown it where we're using the end of your rope, tie a Blake's hitch, and climb that way. However, when you're using the rope for the Blake's hitch, I'm using a Predator climbing line. It's like 11.4 millimeter rope, and you're tying a Blake's hitch on a 11.4 millimeter rope. So when you use that same size rope for your hitch, sometimes it takes a little finesse to get your friction hitch, your Blake's hitch, to bite in good and not slip on you. So what I'm using now is I'm adding an 8 millimeter prusik cord and tying it in a Swabish hitch. And it actually serves two functions. Number one, being I have a smaller prusik cord, it almost always bites in quicker and easier, and you don't have any slippage. And then number two, it's going to serve the same purpose as a split tail, in the sense that you can, when you're climbing, if you encounter a limb in between where you're climbing, you can get up to a certain height, make yourself safe with your tether or your lineman belt, and then you can disconnect, get around that limb, and just clip in without having to tie any knots. Also, this is something that you can do where you won't need to have to tie any knots in the field. You can do everything beforehand and just pull your rope in. So I'm going to demonstrate the climbing technique. I'll show you a little bit about what I've done with my setup. Now, one of the things I'd like to show you here, what I'm doing a little bit differently this year, I'm taking a 2i factory prusik cord, tied in a Swabish hitch. You can use the hitch of your choice. You could even just tie it in a prusik, prusik. I hear most guys call it prusik. I've always called it prusik because I'm from New York, I guess. But anyway, any type of hitch that you like that'll hold you. But some of these are a little bit easier to break once you've sat in them and they've got some friction on them. So I tie it in here on the one side. My working end, I've got a clove hitch tied in with my carabiner. And then I've got, I don't know, this is probably about a 10-inch piece with a factory tied eye in it. You could just tie a termination knot if you don't have a factory eye on your rope. And I'm just going to clip that to the carabiner. And this will serve two purposes. If I encountered a limb while I'm climbing up and it's causing me some friction or something, I can get up to a certain height in the tree, make myself safe in the tree, and I can just unclasp my carabiner and get around that limb. So it makes it nice and easy, and I don't have to tie any knots. As you noticed, I already had my friction hitch on my rope beforehand, so I didn't even have to do that in the field. Everything is just a matter of clipping and unclipping carabiners. This one here is going to go to my bridge, and I'll show you how I climb. So now, this demonstration that I'm going to show you here, how I'm going to climb a little bit differently. You know, I could climb using a hip thrusting technique here, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bight of line and I'm going to make a loop in it, and I want to catch my foot, my dominant foot, for me it's my right leg, in this loop. Here I'm doing it just in Crocs. I'm going to catch it in here, I'm going to raise my leg up like I'm taking a step. I'm going to grab this end and hold the rope. And the whole idea is when I step, I don't want this to move, I don't want it to slide out, but I'm going to pull this rope over that limb and down, and that's going to help me climb. And as I step into it, this friction knot is going to come down and loosen up. and I'll be able to advance it. Just pull it up. Pull it up. Pull it up. Hold it with both hands. It's very simple because you're doing everything with your leg strength. Not even leg strength, it's your body weight. As you can see, really pretty easy to do. So as you can see, it's really pretty easy to do. There's no hip thrusting. You're just basically using your body weight to step in, and all I'm doing is I'm grabbing the rope underneath the friction hitch. Take that rope, basically take a loop in it, catch my foot in that loop, and then hold it with both hands. I try to grab it up a little bit higher up here so that as I step into it, both hands are holding on to that rope, and as I step, I'm pulling the whole thing down, then I hold it with one hand and advance the knot up. Very, very simple, effective way of climbing. So hopefully this is a good tip. If you guys are somebody that struggles with your Blake's hitch holding, go ahead and give this a try. Easy to do. On this end, if you don't have a nice tight eye like I have, you'd want to put a good termination knot. I use something like a fisherman's knot. You could use like a scaffold knot, something like that. But it works really well. And I mean, this is just the cost of a 75-foot rope. You go in, set yourself up using this. You don't have to use sticks. You don't have to use steps. Less stuff to carry in, and you're safe from the very bottom of the tree as you climb up. There's never any slack in your system as there is when you're single stick climbing or stick climbing at all. For me, I feel like it's even safer because I'm basically always on a friction hitch and on a taut line the whole time from the base of the tree. So, very effective way of climbing, very simple. It's going to take a little bit of practice, but really not too bad at all. It's very easy. So hopefully this guy helps you guys out. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section. I'd be happy to answer them as best I could. All right. So thanks for watching. Climb safe.